Most people check reviews before trusting a place to sleep. Ryan checked 47. Every guest gave 5 stars. Every guest called it peaceful. Every guest said the host felt like family. None of those guests ever returned home, because the cabin doesn't rent rooms. It collects people. Ryan didn't understand that when he booked the trip. He only understood it later. Barefoot, bleeding, and running through a forest that seemed to remember his footsteps before he made them. Ryan and Lisa were the kind of couple that lived inside calendars instead of days. Deadlines, traffic, conversations that ended before they began. So when Ryan found a secluded cabin listing hidden deep in the mountains, it felt like oxygen. Remote, cheap, perfect reviews. Every comment described the host the same way. Mr. Davis treats you like family. Ryan booked instantly. The cabin looked exactly like the photos. Warm amber lights across wooden walls. Pine-scented air drifting through open windows. The forest stood perfectly still around them like a paused video. Peaceful. Too peaceful. Lisa noticed the first inconsistency in the master closet. 3 expensive jackets hung neatly in different sizes. Freshly washed, waiting, as if their owners had stepped out for a moment that never ended. Lisa felt a quiet unease settle beneath her ribs. Not fear, something softer. The uncomfortable sensation of interrupting a life that hadn't finished happening. For a moment, she wondered if the cabin was less a destination and more a pause. In the bathroom, a designer makeup bag lay open beside half-used perfume bottles and a hairbrush tangled with dark strands of hair. A life paused mid-sentence. Ryan shrugged. Guests forget things. But the house didn't feel abandoned. It felt occupied by absence. That night, Lisa discovered a guest book hidden beneath the nightstand. The final entry read, "He doesn't watch from the woods, he watches from underneath." The ink was still wet. Ryan laughed until he realized he'd begun whistling a tune he didn't recognize. Slow, cheerful, familiar in a way that felt stolen. Outside, the forest answered with the same melody. When Ryan stepped out to start the car, panic arrived quietly. The battery was gone. All 4 tires were slashed. The forest continued whistling. Inside, the lights died, and beneath the floorboards came the unmistakable sound of fingernails dragging across wood. Ryan grabbed his spare car keys from the kitchen counter and pulled Lisa toward the door. A sudden freezing draft swept through the room, snatching the keys from his hand. They skittered across the hardwood floor, sliding directly under the heavy basement door. Slowly, the door creaked open on its own. The whistling was coming from below. They couldn't leave without the keys. Heart pounding, Ryan clicked on his phone flashlight and descended the wooden stairs. Cold air rose like breath from something that had been waiting too long. At the bottom stood Mr. Davis, but something about him felt unfinished. His spine curved too sharply. His skin stretched tight like paper drying in sunlight. His smile remained fixed, detached from the rest of his face. In one hand, he held a rusted screwdriver. In the other, Ryan's car keys. "The Wi-Fi is unreliable down here," Davis whispered. "But once you're part of the collection, you won't need the outside world." Ryan's flashlight swept across the basement walls. Dozens of driver's licenses pinned in perfect rows. Polaroids of sleeping guests hung beside them. Some photos looked decades old, yet the people inside hadn't aged. Among them was a faded photograph of a young man standing beside the cabin door, a smiling guest. His name tag read, Daniel Davis. Ryan noticed something else. In every photograph, Mr. Davis stood somewhere in the background, watching, smiling. But his age never changed. Some photos were faded with time, others looked recent. Yet Mr. Davis remained identical, unchanged, untouched, unmoved by years. Beneath the photographs, carved faintly into the wooden wall, were words nearly erased by age. Family doesn't leave. Behind Ryan, two figures emerged from the darkness. Pale, eyes hollow, movements delayed, like buffering video struggling to load reality. They weren't dead. They were overwritten. Ryan lunged, knocking the keys from Davis's hand, grabbed them, and scrambled up the stairs, slamming the basement door behind him. He dragged Lisa outside. They ran into the forest. Branches clawed at their skin while shapes stood silently between trees. Guests frozen mid-step, luggage in hand, staring into nothing. A woman asked Ryan for directions, then repeated the same sentence again. And again. And again. Ryan whispered Lisa's name from behind, even though he was running ahead. Time lagged. Memories overlapped. Lisa's chest burned as they ran, but the panic wasn't from exhaustion. It was the growing certainty that something behind them wasn't chasing their bodies. It was chasing their memories. And memories, she realized, were much harder to outrun. The forest wasn't chasing them. It was remembering them. They reached the highway and flagged down a truck driver. During the ride, Lisa noticed something wrong. Ryan's reflection in the window blinked a second late. His phone screen lit up. His fingers moved across the keyboard, typing a review he didn't remember writing. The signal vanished before she could read it. Police investigated the cabin the next morning, but there was nothing there. No driveway, no foundation, no basement. Only an empty clearing surrounded by silent trees. The GPS coordinates led nowhere. The listing had disappeared. A week later, back home, Lisa opened the rental app one last time. Ryan sat beside her, alive, safe, normal. Watching him, Lisa felt a grief she couldn't explain. He looked the same, spoke the same, smiled the same, but the familiarity felt rehearsed, like someone repeating a role they'd memorized from a life that no longer belonged to them. The cabin listing had returned. A new 5-star review appeared. Perfect escape. We loved the quiet so much, we decided to stay forever. Posted by Ryan Anderson. Ryan stared at his name as something inside his smile struggled to synchronize with his face. That night, Lisa woke to a familiar whistle drifting through the apartment. Ryan sat on the couch in darkness, laptop glowing against his pale expression. Hundreds of reviews filled the screen, profiles without history, guests without records, lives without exits. Ryan turned slowly toward her, his smile loading. Mr. Davis says the house isn't a location, he whispered. It's wherever we remember it. The screen refreshed. Another review appeared. Beautiful place. Warm host. You don't have to leave to feel at home. Posted by Lisa Anderson. And Lisa realized the cabin hadn't followed them. Ryan had. Sleep tight. And if a place ever feels a little too much like home, don't stay. Don't forget to subscribe. Good night.